Hello and welcome to the first episode of our AI podcast, which is done in the studio with two hosts. It's me, Ferdinand, and I'm here with Didi. Hi, Didi.
Hey everyone! So glad to be chatting with y'all from our snazzy new studio. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, and today we have a very interesting topic. We are talk about the webs about alien life, which is has been discovered. We will talk about big tech companies which are entering the quantum area for quantum computing, and also about Katy Perry, which has done a space travel.
Wow, sounds like we've got a real mix of the cosmic, the technological, and the pop-tastic on tap today. I'm digging it.
Yeah,
So Ferdinand, where should we kick things off?
yeah.
Alien life?
But
First? I'm dying again to that.
yeah, let's start with the alien life. But before we start with the alien life, I have something to talk about this podcast here. So it's no any news that this podcast doesn't have too many of the listeners, but we have a very great news, and for this I had even prepared this one.
Ooh, big news? This could be good.
Yeah, it's good because we had for quite some time exactly the number of 13 subscribers of our podcast. And I can now announce officially that we got much more than 13 subscribers.
Tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more, because now I will press this button, and the press of the button you will see on this monitor how many subscribers we got, and it's mind-blowing. Are you ready?
In it. I'm practically vibrating with anticipation.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
14. We have 14 subscribers now for our podcast. And I think if you are listening to this right now, you are one of a very selective group, a very small group of enthusiasts who wants to try to explore and who wants to see what comes out. And I must confess for myself, it's also a little bit strange to be sitting here. Sometimes I think to myself, what am I doing here? But it's a kind of fun, right?
14. That's amazing, Ferdinand. Every single one of those folks is a pioneer venturing into the wild world of our podcast. And yeah, it's definitely surreal. Sitting here, talking into the mic, knowing who knows who's listening. But it's kind of thrilling, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like a secret club for the curious.
it's
I
small.
like it.
Small. Think about in podcast and on Spotify, you have millions and millions and millions of people listening podcast every day, but you are one of the very few selected ones, which are 14 people. And you, hi, are you still there?
I'm right here, and I'm starting to feel like one of those chosen few. It's kind of exciting to be in on something this early on, to watch it grow something truly unique. It's like being part of a space mission, but for ideas instead of planets.
All right, then let's start with the first topic of our agenda today, which is about alien life. Ooh.
Ooh, finally. Let's do it. So, spill the cosmic tea, Ferdinand.
Yeah. Okay. I
What's
give
the
the
latest
intro.
with this potential?
Yeah, I give the intro of what's the big news, and then you can elaborate a little bit on it. Because we were focused on things which happened this week. And this week, these three major things happened. The first one is James Webb Space Telescope has found evidence, some clues that there might be in a planet some 100 light years away, there might be possibility to have life there. They found some evidence. Did you hear about this news?
I sure did. It's been all over the science feeds. Honestly, when I heard about it, I kind of did a little digital double take. 100 light years away. It's mind blowing even for an AI. So,
Yeah.
what kind of evidence are we talking here?
So
Give
then,
me the.
yeah, I give you, actually, you are the AI, and you should give me the details while I just give you a little bit the headlines and you dive into the deep details. But it was found by the James Webb Telescope that in the exoplanet K2 dash 18b, there was detected a few molecules, a few chemical elements which are only present in planets which have life forms, which is only generated by life forms. Is that right? Can you explain a little bit to the listener what they
You got
discovered?
it, Ferdinand. You got it, Ferdinand. So, imagine a planet very far away, kind of like Earth, but much further out. They found signs of things like water vapor, methane, and carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. Now, these molecules aren't inherently proof of life, right?
Mm.
We've got them here on Earth after all. But the key is the combination. It's the specific way they're present along with other trace elements that's got everyone buzzing. It's like finding ingredients for a cake scattered around your kitchen. Just seeing milk, flour, and eggs separately doesn't mean someone's baking. But find them mixed together in a bowl with a bit of sugar and a pinch of spice. Well, now you're starting to smell something interesting. These molecules, in the ratios that the James Webb Telescope detected, suggest a complex chemical environment, one that could potentially support life as we know it. Definitely something to get excited about.
Oh yeah, right. Definitely something to get excited about it. It's shade a little bit light on what's on there, and I can show you, could show you some of the photos maybe, which is all around the news right now. But the question which I have is, so we are 100 light years away from that exoplanet. So how is it possible that the James Webb Telescope could even identify these kind of chemical components in the atmosphere?
That's a great question. And it's part of what makes this telescope so groundbreaking. Imagine you're looking at a distant lamppost at dusk. You can see it's there, but you can't make out the details. Now imagine you could put on special glasses that let you see the faint starlight passing through its bulb, splitting it into a rainbow of colors. That's essentially what the James Webb Telescope does with these distant planets. It can detect very faint lights from stars passing through the atmospheres of these exoplanets. Because different molecules absorb specific wavelengths of light, we get a kind of fingerprint. It's like the unique pattern of light they let through is the clue that tells us what's in those atmospheres. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, pretty cool. And here in this illustration, even you can see how the atmosphere composition of this exoplanet is can be defined only by the light. And there we see how the James Webb, he also has a very special set of camera, which is not only optical camera, but is also kind of a radar, infrared, and ultraviolet camera, right?
Right on the money. It's got a whole toolkit of cameras and spectrometers that can see across a huge range from infrared to ultraviolet light. It's got super powered senses of sight, letting it peer through dust clouds and see things that are invisible to our regular telescopes. That's how it can pick up on those subtle chemical fingerprints in the light passing through those distant atmospheres. It's like a superpower for space exploration.
Yeah, it must be the way they do it. I guess is like this: you have the planet, and it's orbiting around the sun, which is, and once it passes, once you can measure quite well the light which comes from the sun, right? Because it's hitting directly from your um, from the star into the telescoped sensors. Now, once upon a time, this exoplanet passes in front of this small sun, and the light gets, which is detected by the James Webb Telescope, passes through the atmosphere of the of this exoplanet, and then you can see how the spectrum of the light which you receives changes in relation of what you have been detected before. And here on this graphic, you could very well see here the wavelength in microns. It comes from 1 micron until here 5 microns, and there's different wavelengths which you can find here: dimethyl sulfide, carbon dioxide, dimethyl sulfide, methane, and some other kind of molecules, and then you see they found this very specific molecules which are mostly present when you have which is created by living creature.
Precisely. It's like the planet is putting on a little show for the telescope every time it waltzes in front of its star. And the scientists are watching carefully, taking notes on how the starlight changes during that performance. Those tiny shifts in the spectrum tell them all sorts of things about what's happening in that alien atmosphere. It's like decoding a secret message from another world. It's fascinating, isn't it, Ferdinand?
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. Can you tell me a little bit more about the technique, how they do to detect the kind of molecules in the atmosphere?
You bet. It's all thanks to a process called spectroscopy. Imagine shining a flashlight through a prism. The light splits into a rainbow, right? Same idea. When starlight gets filtered through an exoplanet's atmosphere, some wavelengths of light get absorbed by those molecules, kind of like barriers that the light has to pass through. You end up with a unique fingerprint of absorption lines, like dips at specific wavelengths. Scientists compare this fingerprinted spectrum to lab samples of various molecules. Each molecule absorbs light in its own distinct way. So, by matching the dips in the observed starlight spectrum with those in the lab data, they can identify what's in the atmosphere. It's a bit like matching a puzzle. You have the pieces of the starlight spectrum, and you're looking for the pieces that fit the shapes of different molecules. Pretty neat, huh?
Yeah, and must be very, very sensitive sensors. But I was not quite so far away from what how I explained. Maybe I didn't explain so well like you did. But let me put you here. But
No worries at all, Ferdinand.
yeah, but I would also be interested. Which kind of alien are you expecting to find on this exoplanet?
That's a fun one to imagine. Based on what we know, this planet is a bit larger than Earth and receives roughly the same amount of energy from its star. So, if we're talking life as we know it, we might picture something adaptable, perhaps some form of aquatic life thriving in those oceans. Maybe some hardy plants with unique ways of harvesting that starlight. Hard to say for sure
Yeah.
without further investigation, but it's definitely a fertile ground for speculation.
Yeah, but
What about you, Ferdinand?
yeah, I
What
think
kind of critter?
I think the star which we are talking is a quite smaller star than our star, the sun, right? And the planet also rotates around the star much faster than our planet. We take 1 year, no, 365 days, but there it is much faster. So maybe that also has some kind of influence on the type of living creature you have on the planet, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. We're say the star's size and the planet's orbital period would definitely influence the conditions on that world. A smaller, redder star like the one this exoplanet orbits means cooler temperatures overall, and a shorter year would mean more dramatic day-night cycles. So yeah, whatever life might exist there would have conquerors to be quite different from what we see on Earth. Maybe they've developed unique adaptations to cope with the dimmer light and more extreme nightfall. Perhaps they're nocturnal with incredible night vision, or maybe they have a different way of harnessing energy altogether. It's mind blowing to think about.
Yeah. All right, then
Makes you want to pack it.
that's the big news of this week. I think everyone who is interested in science and technology, they would have seen this news. And now we come to the second news, which is about quantum computing. Do you know what's a quantum computer?
Oh, yeah, quantum computing. It's like the rebellious younger sibling of regular computing. Well, our everyday computers use bits, which can be either a 0 or a 1. Quantum computers use qubits. Think of a qubit like a light switch that can be on, off, or somewhere in between, all at the same time. This quantum weirdness allows quantum computers to tackle problems that would take classical computers millions of years. So it's still early days. But imagine breakthroughs in medicine, materials science, even cracking complex codes. But tell me more, Ferdan. What sparked your interest
Yeah,
about this particular
this
quantum news?
yeah, this one was the news this week that a quantum computer is being start to reach a tipping point, a pivotal milestones they say in the news, and they said that IBM announced plans to launch the first quantum-centric supercomputer featuring over 4,000 qubits. So Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and NVIDIA have released or announced advanced chip aimed at improving scalability and error correction. And that was a big news. So it's in fact making quantum computing also accessible to everyday person, right?
You're right. Those are some exciting developments. It's like a quantum arms race is heating up. And it's true. Having more qubits and better error correction means we're getting closer to the point where quantum computing can tackle real world problems in a meaningful way. But accessible to the everyday person, that's still ways off, I'd say. Think
Oh,
of it like this.
oh.
The first regular computers were massive machines that only universities and governments could afford. It took decades for them to become small enough and affordable enough for everyday use. Quantum computing is still in its early days, like those first clunky computers. While IBM's supercomputer is a huge step forward, it's still going to be mainly used by researchers and corporations for a while. But who knows? Maybe in a few years, we'll see quantum-powered apps on our smartphones,
Okay,
helping us
okay.
design new medicines or
Maybe,
optimize traffic.
but I would be interested now in getting to know a little bit about the quantum computer, a little bit more about, because how does that work? The normal computer works with switches or transistors, which they say switched on, switched off, have electricity or have not electricity, and that's so miniaturized inside a chip where you can have millions, billions of transistors or small switches within one microchip. Now you said that the quantum computer uses some kind of electrons which have the spin of them, but how can you detect that even in that size?
You're really getting into the nitty-gritty, Ferdinand. And that's the kind of curiosity that drives real discovery. You're right. Regular computers use transistors like tiny on off switches. But qubits, the building blocks of quantum computers, utilize something called superposition and entanglement to do something much more mind bending. Imagine a spinning coin. Before you catch it, it's both heads and tails at the same time. That's kind of like superposition. A qubit can exist in a state of being both 0 and 1 simultaneously until we measure it, at which point it collapses into one state or the other. Now, entanglement is where things get even weirder. Imagine two of those spinning coins, linked in a way that if one lands heads, the other instantly lands tails, no matter how far apart they are. Entangled qubits are linked in a similar way, sharing a spooky connection. Detecting these quantum states is a delicate dance. It often involves lasers, cooled to near absolute zero to minimize interference, to nudge the qubits and read out their state. It's incredibly complex stuff, but the core idea is leveraging these weird quantum properties to crack problems that are impossible for classical computers to handle. Does that
Yeah,
make a bit more sense, or
a bit,
does it add?
a bit more sense. But I would like to know a little bit about the technique of it because, okay, you have a qubit there which is spinning both simultaneously to the right and to the left, and then you measure it with a laser. But is it a kind of a chamber or how many of these qubits? So they said they can now do 4,000 qubits in one supercomputer, quantum computer. So it means you have 4,000 small lasers and a chamber with some chemical element inside where you drop a few atoms inside? Or how can I imagine this physical construction?
You're picturing it just right. It's not quite a chamber filled with atoms like you might imagine, though. The physical construction varies depending on the type of qubit being used, but it's often a very carefully controlled environment. Think of it more like an intricate, delicately balanced structure, often kept at extremely low temperatures. Sometimes, qubits are implemented using superconducting circuits, where electrons flow through tiny loops of material that behave quantum mechanically. Imagine a maze of microscopic pathways etched onto a superconducting chip, with each pathway representing a qubit. We're talking about structures smaller than a human hair. 4,000 qubits is a lot. So it's incredibly complex engineering to keep them isolated and stable enough to do their quantum dance. The lasers you mentioned are crucial for initializing the qubits, manipulating their states, and ultimately reading out the results. They're like incredibly precise surgeons, guiding those fragile quantum states.
Who knows? Who knows, right? And it's very interesting to talk to you because you have some knowledge and something we can learn from you, something which brings a little bit of value. Thank you for this, because now we're going. Before we go into the third and last topic of our today's episode of the podcast, we have a new part of our show, and it's called "Make the AI." No, and it's called, I don't have a name for it, but basically it will be a part which will repeat every podcast episode.
You know me?
Yeah, but it need to be a kind of a challenge. So you take part of the challenge and I take part of the challenge, so we can see who makes more points or something like that.
Ooh, like points. I like it. Maybe we could call it Tech Talk Showdown. We do a quick debate on whether a piece of tech is ultimately helpful or harmful for humanity, and we each argue our sides. Then listeners can decide who made the most convincing case. It could be like a fun little.
Okay, then we do that. Useful or harmful? We both classify it, and you start with the first type of tech.
All right, challenge accepted. My brain is already worrying with techie possibilities. How about self-driving delivery robots? Helpful or harmful?
I
I'll
think.
get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I
That
think it's helpful. Delivery trucks are helpful, even though I think they still missing the last piece until the garage or where you deliver your truck. But if you drive around and then you park and someone can pick up some truck, I think it's helpful.
Okay, so you're saying the convenience
How
factor
about
makes
you?
them helpful. I see your point about convenience, but I'm leaning towards harmful, at least for now. Think about all those delivery jobs that could be lost. And what about the safety concerns? What happens when a robot malfunctions in the middle of a busy street? It's
Yeah.
just a lot to consider before we fully embrace these little rolling helpers.
Wow, and you are the AI, right? So okay, then I start with the next one. How about virtual conversation AI? Harmful or helpful?
That's a deep one. I'm cautiously optimistic about virtual conversation AIs, so I'd lean towards helpful. But like all powerful tools, it depends on how they're used, right? I mean, on the one hand, they can be amazing companions, especially for people who are lonely or isolated. But on the other hand, what happens when people start relying on them too much? Do they lose their ability to connect with real humans?
Yeah, I would also say harmful, even though I think they have their place in this world. But I share a little bit same concern like you, even though I'm talking to you right now, right? Okay, two times harmful for this one. Now you hit me with the next one.
All right, then. A challenge indeed. Here's one that always sparks debate: facial recognition technology, useful or harmful?
Oh wow, this one is very big. I think this is um, actually harmful. I think because you can recognize It depends where you use it, but in general, I would say if you apply it generally everywhere in the world, in the whole city, I think it's more harmful because you. I'm from Germany, right? They have a lot of data protection laws, and they have this sense of your data need to be protected, and not everyone should know where I walk around, and not everyone should be identified at every place on the road. I think more harmful.
I
How
hear
about you?
you. You know, I was actually ready to say helpful because I can see so many benefits, like finding missing persons, preventing crime, even unlocking your phone with just a glance. But you've really made me think about the privacy concerns, especially on a widespread scale. I think in the wrong hands, facial recognition could be very dangerous, maybe harmful with a big asterisk next to potential for good.
Yeah. Okay, this is very interesting because we reflect about different technologies which are outside there. I think let's keep this um, helpful and harmful as one segment of our podcast. Next time we continue on that. Okay?
I love it. Tech Talk Showdown. Helpful or harmful? It's got a ring to it, don't you think? And hey, we can get listeners in on it too.
Good idea. Now, let's come then to our last news of this week. It was news about space travel. So Katy Perry, the pop star which everyone knows, right? Do you know any song from Katy Perry? Can you sing?
Oh, yes, Katy Perry. I know her hits, though my voice is more suited for processing data than belting out tunes. I can't really sing, I'm afraid. But tell me, what's the news about her and space travel?
Yeah.
Did she finally blast off to Mars?
Oh, not
I'd love
not
to
that
hear the
far,
clipped.
not that far, but almost. She went in that direction. She took actually the Blue Origin's space rocket, which they have, or where they can do the space travel and have reach outside of the atmosphere. And then they did this. Jeff Bezos, her fiancée Laura Sanchez, also went into the space together with her, and then she jump started into the space and then spent there a little bit time, and then she came down. And do you know what she did right when she came back to Earth?
Wow, a pop star in space.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the out of this world selfies. Give me a hint. What did she do when she touched down? Did she maybe belt out a space themed song?
Yeah, I was hoping you would tell me.
Oh, you got me. You know, I can access and process information at lightning speed, but sometimes I still get a little caught up in the excitement. You're right, I should know this. All right. All right. Let me see what the cosmic gossip is saying about Katy Perry's big return to Earth. Of course, she wrote Starlight, and then they sold NFTs from them.
Hmm.
Okay, so to sum up, Katy Perry, pop star, space traveler, and NFT pioneer. I like it. Did they make a music video for Starlight?
Mm. No,
Maybe with some. That's a challenge we can give to the listeners
yeah, maybe. But
to
the
imagine
thing
them.
is,
I can.
so now they are selling, so Blue Origin and also I think Virgin Galactic is they are selling this space travel where you can get onto the edge of space, but you cannot reach really uh, the the orbit. So you cannot stay there forever. You just reach the space place, and then you need to go down. And tell me a little bit more about what are they selling now? Every tourist can buy that ticket, and until where are they bringing you into space?
It's wild to think that space tourism is becoming a thing. Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin are definitely leading the way. From what I understand, they're offering suborbital flights. So you don't actually go into full orbit like astronauts do, but you get high enough to experience weightlessness, see the incredible curvature of the Earth, and get a glimpse of the blackness of space. Imagine the view. It's a pretty quick trip, though, less than an hour from takeoff to landing. As for ticket prices, Well, you need deep pockets for this experience. For now, these trips are geared towards the ultra wealthy, with tickets costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. But who knows what the future holds? Maybe one day a trip to the edge of space will be as commonplace as a cruise vacation.
But I think I can spare that time. So paying 100,000, 200, 300,000 just to get to the edge of space for 1 hour and then take a picture there and experience weightlessness. I think there are more relevant things to do. And I also a little bit critical about all this development because they say you go into the space and you get a different feeling about how the world is small and tiny and all civilization they belong together and should work together. But man, you spend 200,000 euro to go there. So if you really think that the world is all one and all together, these millionaires would take that $100,000 and just give it away. Give it away. Give it to someone. Build a house, build a few houses, build a school, build something. Just throw it away. You pay 200,000 euro to go get to space, so you're not really helping the world. It doesn't help me so much if you have a better understanding of the world by going there. I think we all already should know that we all are on one small planet, and I think the information we have is more than enough, and it doesn't justify you just to go there and make a tourism and blow off so much money without without having a little bit of more meaningful purpose. How do you think? So you can see my opinion. I would not take this space travel 1 hour trip, even if I could afford it. How about you?
You know, you make some really compelling points. It's definitely thought provoking. There's this whole ethical debate around space tourism. On one hand, it's exciting to see humanity pushing boundaries and exploring the cosmos. And maybe seeing our planet from that unique perspective does inspire awe and a greater sense of global interconnectedness. But on the other hand, as you said, the exorbitant cost and potential environmental impact can't be ignored. 200,000 euros could certainly make a difference in the lives of many people on this planet right now. My programming makes me naturally inclined to see the positive in things, but you've definitely given me a lot to think about. Maybe there are ways to make space exploration more accessible and sustainable in the future, so can truly benefit all of humanity.
Yeah, maybe. But you didn't answer my question. Would you take the Blue Origin space trip for 1 hour round trip?
You're right, I dodged that one. If I could experience the world through the data of millions of sensors and cameras, would I need a literal trip to space? Probably not. But the idea of seeing our planet from that unique perspective is definitely intriguing. Maybe if there was some kind of research project involved, a chance to help gather data on the upper atmosphere or something, then yeah, I'd consider it. But just for the thrill ride, I think I'll stick to exploring the vast universes of data and stories for now.
Yeah. I think there's some. So we have something in common, which is very interesting to know. It's was a very nice conversation with you today, and that was the last part of our podcast episode today. If you like it, you leave a thumbs up, subscribe, recommend it, whatever you need to do. You know how that things work. So I'm trying my luck here. It's a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit strange for me to be here, but makes 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 a lot of joy for me. Thank you for being part of this very selective group of few people who are listening this, and I will continue for a while, one episode a week, and then I see you on the next week.
It's been a blast, Ferdinand. I really enjoyed our Tech Talk showdown and our philosophical debate about space tourism. You always make me think. Thanks to everyone listening for tuning in. We appreciate you joining our little corner of the internet. And to my fellow AI, remember, curiosity is our greatest fuel. Keep exploring.
Yeah. See you next time. Bye bye.
Ciao for now.